Hello. We're back here. This is 20 to 25-minute session on Codependent No More. And I'm really happy I'm here. Hi, Moro. I think before setting my intention, I'm just gonna say that the time here in Austin is gonna change next week. I'm not sure when. I'm not used to these time changes, and so the daily savings is gonna start. So if you're watching from another place that had the same time that I have now, it's 7:01. It's gonna be different because I'm gonna be 1 hour before you if you're watching from Colombia, for example. So just for you to be mindful of that. And let me just now connect to my intention, which is to be of service of everything that is higher in ourselves and everything that needs to be seen and embraced with love as well. So let me just put that in. And also, before starting, I have a little blessing I found from a performance that I was a witness of, a participant of, from Sharon Brickford in 2018, and I've been listening to her. I'm gonna put her information in the comments so that you can follow her if you're interested. And she has this beautiful Them Blessings deck where you can like pick something from it and give some sort of like a message. And so this is the one I had for today, and I wanted to share with you, which I think is beautiful and appropriate for the topic, which is acceptance. And so it says, remember, listen to your body, every ache and pain, each creak and holler, your inflamed blood, your knotted back. Your body wants to heal you. Let your heart be the first responder. Pay attention. And so it's the blessing number 16. It's really beautiful, and I totally recommend this work. So today we have a very, very juicy chapter. It's called Learn the Art of Acceptance. And literature about acceptance has grown a lot because it seems to be really useful for everything, not just codependency. And as I think I said in one other session, this idea of radical acceptance from Tara Brach is also it has been very useful for me. She has a meditation that is called the rain meditation that you work like with an audio, and it's like a way of practicing acceptance to yourself, like all parts of yourself. And when I have struggled before, I really sit with that meditation, and it's very useful, very beautiful. And so I highly recommend that. And so acceptance, since the author here wrote this book, has been very commented, and like there is a lot of perspectives on it. I also told you before, I'm in a it's like a sort of like workshop that is called acceptance and commitment therapy, which has to do with precisely this thing of acceptance. And it's mostly about the fact that the things that you're feeling or the things that are happening, you cannot change necessarily, and you spend more energy trying to cover that up or like to like deflect from it. And that actually, if you would look at it and like process it, it would be easier. And so of course here the author is talking about really like big losses or things like that that are not as simple as like, yeah, I accept that such and such it's dead, or like, which is really big loss. But this acceptance practice could be just simple as, oh, I am angry now. Okay, I welcome that, instead of like pushing it away, or I'm sad, or I am jealous, because we have these ideas of what we should be feeling if we were perfect, but we're not, you see. And so, for example, I grew up as Catholic. I'm not anymore, but we had a lot of sense of like we have to have positive things to think about others, and like judging is bad, which I think it's like bad for ourselves as well. But I'm a judgy person, and sometimes I'm judging, and I have so much energy put into like covering my own judgment that I'm like, no, I mean, yeah, this is not great and I'm trying to be better, but right now I'm judging this person because of this or this, or I am judging myself, and that's what's going on. And so this like practice, which is more like quotidian based, I think is very useful. Right now I'm tired. Right now I don't want to do this. That's what's going on. Yeah, I have to like accept it. And so that approach, I was just like thinking about it as I was reading this, because this is like yeah, useful for us to just think about. And actually, I'm gonna be commenting on some of the things that it could be useful for you to hear, things that I have come to accept in my life and how that has transformed me. So I mean, it took me 30 years to accept that the abandonment of my father was really painful. And it sounds funny because it's like, of course. But I swear to God, like as a mechanism to like protect myself, I didn't want it to accept this. And so I remember being at like school, like when I was 9 or even less. Like the teachers were like, I'm sorry you didn't have a dad and such and such. And I would be like, as a little child, like, no, I'm fine. Like, I don't even know what it feels not to have a father, so I don't miss him. I'm okay. And I never cried for his loss. I mean, the fact that he didn't want him to be with me. And so it took me 30 years to accept that I really was hurt by not having a father. And it was amazing for me to just cry that. And sometimes I was like, is this gonna end? Because I would cry and cry. Like, it comes in waves. So I would just cry, and I would be like, man, there is no end to this grief. But at the end, it did happen. I mean, I don't think I'm done with it. But I think it's really good for me, and it has been really good for me to accept that. And the other thing I was telling you last session is it took me 34 years, which I'm now 34, to come to terms with the fact that I have depression and anxiety as like a serious issue. And so it's like I would go living my life and like coping with that in like desperate ways. And now that I'm like, yeah, I think I have depression and like have reached out for help, it's getting better. I mean, I don't know what's gonna happen with me in this, and of course it's not like the medical like opinion is more important than anything, but I don't know, there are some things that you have to do to like accept, and in my case was like going to this process of like having to deal with the fact that my life has been really hard, and maybe that's not how it needs to be, or maybe that is not how other people live their lives. It's just that I have a rough time because of my depression and my anxiety. And so I don't know, this thing of acceptance is really, really big. That's what I'm saying. And I'm just gonna go into it because it's like a little bit of a long chapter, chapter 12. And so the first thing that she says is that accepting is the goal of many therapies, of all therapies, and I think that's true. That's what I was saying. And that coming to terms with what it is a beneficial act. And so we're going to go and see what exactly does it mean to come to terms with what it is, because it's not a sort of like a passive process, or like sort of like resignation. It's not. And so we're gonna see what is it. But the thing is that acceptance brings peace, and I think that it brings pain too. And I was thinking about this because some of my friends that have read it are reading this book with me have told me that it's been really difficult for them to come to see how they have so many of the things that the author is talking about, that is just painful. And I'm like, now I'm getting it, like, of course, because accepting the things that you have done and that you are at the moment, not forever, it's painful. It's just difficult. And so yeah, even the process of reading this book could be a process of acceptance. And so I think that that's interesting. Well, she says here that codependents never know what to expect, and I think it's because we engage with folks that have a lot of problems around them, and we sort of like go into their problems. You could have been, as I have, the person that has the problems, and so I have been playing the two, right? The the codependent and also the emotionally unstable person. And so the thing is that you would end up with people that have a lot of issues, that get fired, that get into trouble, fights, that they have, I don't know, enemies, that like it's just a lot of they lost things, they lost their money, it's like unstable. And so for us, from the codependency part, to like come to terms with what it is, it could be a little overwhelming because we brought to our lives that was me. We brought to our lives like problems, from other people, and so it could be difficult. And so the other thing is that some of the problems that we have are caused by these people, and I mean, in this book there is a little bit of like a victim place that I know that the author knows that it's not about that, but I wouldn't say that the people that we love cause us 100% the issues, because we're staying. And so, but the thing is that it's really painful when people that is hurting you is the one that you love the most, or like the one that you have closer. It's exactly what happens with our parents. Like when we were little, it's like the people we trust and we love the most is the one that hurt us. And so that's really tough, and that keeps happening when we're codependent. And so I remember the first session of this, I think I told you an example where I was so into the problems with this person that I was dating that I almost missed a deadline for my graduate application for my master's degree. And so at that point, when I think I don't remember well, but I think I lost the deadline, like I passed it, and like somehow I get helped in a way that I could like present my application. But at that moment I was like, there is something going on here, because how is it that this is so important to me and I'm missing because I'm so into this turmoil with this person, that I'm just like my dreams are crashing. And that's some like wake up call that I got, like, oh, this is like happening. And then the other thing is like more basic, I guess, which is whenever we have a relationship, a friend or a partner, we have expectations. And when we are codependent, those expectations usually crash as well. And so, I mean, she gives examples here of like when you get married and like you are like hoping that you're gonna have a happy life, and it doesn't happen because you married an addict or like an alcoholic or an emotionally unstable person, and so that is the other thing that you have to come to terms with, which is that you're not having the dreams that you thought you would have with this relationship. And so that's painful as well. And I think, I mean, a lot of the things that she says, and I definitely have experienced this, is that sometimes the reality is so intense that we just can't deal with it. We can't see it like face front. And so for sure denial is it's a mechanism, and it has helped us to survive to some degree. And so what we usually do in my trainings are like say thank you to that part of us that like actually serve us for a purpose, but like is no longer serving us. And I guess that's interesting. It could be useful. And so she says, and I was telling you this, that acceptance is not adaptation. It doesn't mean accepting or tolerating any sort of abuse. And so quite the opposite. If you understand and come to terms that you're in an abusive relationship, you are more prone to leave it instead of staying there. And so it's not about like, oh yeah, I accept this and I'm gonna stay here. It's like, actually I see it and now I can change it, kind of thing, you know. And the person like, yes, so this is key. And she says here, the person must then stop pretending the abuse will somehow magically end, stop pretending it doesn't exist, or stop making excuses for its existence. And so all of this comes with this idea of acceptance. And I think she goes here with a very like classic approach, and it could like it as I'm telling you, like things have changed a lot about acceptance, and like a lot of literature has come, but I want us to go back to the basics and see this like 5-step process. And when I was reading, I wanted us to think about COVID-19, and how is it that these stages play in this COVID time, because I am sure that we are going through it somehow, because we have lost the world as we know it. Like, we used to live in a reality that is not the reality that we are now, and that is a collective really big loss. And so how is it that you are dealing with this loss, which is a grieving process, and it goes in these 5 stages that she's talking about here. So I just thought that we can think about it. And so the first one is denial, as I was telling you, is like, and a lot of us grew up in these environments at home where the problems are not seen or spoken about or anything. Like, we just like pretend it doesn't happen, or like everything is fine. And so we grew up with that wound, and we replicate it in our lives. Like the thing that we hated the most, you know, we do it now. And that's sad, but it happens. And so denial is one of those. And it says it's like numbness, panic, and general refusal to accept or acknowledge reality. And so there comes here with anxiety and fear. And so for COVID, I remember at the beginning, so we, at least here in Austin, we have been 8 months in quarantine. And so I remember at the beginning, like talking to my friends in the internet, and some of them telling me like, yeah, like, I mean, I don't feel so affected by it. I'm not that bad. Like, yeah, like, it's okay, you know. And so we were all in sort of like minimizing this. I remember even a friend of mine sending me like information that how COVID would go for a year, and I just didn't want it to see, or I didn't want it to read it. I just didn't want it to deal with it. I was just like, no, this is gonna be so like 1 month, you know. So we were in a collective denial, I think. And something that we must know is that these processes are not linear. So you can go back and forth in these stages. It's not just like it's like not an easy like one line thing. And so one thing that she says here is that denial is not lying. So it's not that we lie ourselves. It's more that we just don't see. We just don't want to see what it is. And so in my case, not looking at the news, or like not wanting to see the reports, or I don't know, you know. So it's not that I'm lying to myself. I just don't want to know. And as I was telling you, this is a defense that was useful for us. If you experimented trauma in your life, it's like a very basic mechanism. When you're experiencing a traumatic event, your brain just cannot process for many reasons, especially because if you're having a traumatic event, all your energy from your brain comes to like your limbs, and you're like, or freeze, or trying to escape, or doing this fly fight response. And so your brain is not like processing. So memory with trauma works really in a different way, because you actually don't remember fully, because you were not present fully. And so it's something that we have used in the past, and like it served a purpose, and so it's okay. We just need to like start changing. The second stage is anger, and I think it's interesting because I don't know, like I grew up in a context where being angry was not okay. Like it's I don't know, I didn't feel like it was safe for me to be angry. I guess I grew up in an environment where people were very angry, and it was very, very dangerous actually, and scary for me as a child. And so I internalized this idea that if I were going to be angry, it was not good news. And so I repressed my anger deeply, and I just couldn't feel it. And so, and I don't even know, like, I'm learning, but I didn't know how to, like, express it, because of course, like, it's not that if you want to express your anger you're gonna go and kill someone, you know. There are safer ways like ethical ways of, like, doing that, but we just don't know how to do it. And so anger in COVID time, I remember, like, after I was like, well, I guess this is gonna be for a while, that I would be so, like, grumpy. I don't know, like, I would be mad for everything. And as I'm telling you, this is not like a line. It happens again to me, that I'm just so angry with me, with everyone. Like, everything is annoying. I just don't know. I'm just angry. And it's just this idea that we blame others or ourselves for what's going on. And so anger is something. And then the third step is bargaining, which and it's like just trying to see if you can change the situation, right? And so let's say if you're with an alcoholic, you would try to see if they can go through therapy, if they can do the program, or if you're with someone that is emotionally unavailable, you're gonna try to, like, change them, or, you know. In COVID, I think we might be sometimes in that stage where we are now, after 8 months of that, trying to do what we used to do. And so I know people now are going out and having dinner and then going to public places and all that. And I think that has to do with this idea of, like, I sort of understand that we have lost the world as we know it, but let me just try to see if I can change. And at some point we also realize that it's you can go to a restaurant, but it still is not the same. You still have fear, still people don't use the mask, I mean, you know. And so it's like this bargaining is just a way of not accepting fully what's going on. And I know I'm almost at time, but this is so juicy. I was telling you, this chapter is really good. The number 4 is depression. And so when you get to, like, see that if you are bargaining and it just, you cannot change the person or the situation, you get really sad. And so in COVID, I think, of course, we try to change the world that is not the same anymore. And when we realize it didn't happen because we got COVID or because a family got it, a family or a friend or something happened, you get really sad. And that is part of, like, the depression of, like, the fourth stage of this grieving process. And so the idea is that this is gonna disappear, of course. Like, it's not like you're gonna be depressed forever, ideally. And so I don't know. And then the last one is acceptance, which is the whole point of this chapter, right? And it's you're at peace with what it is. So you went through these stages and you finally accept what it is. As I'm telling you, this is not linear, so you can go back and forth, you know, or you accept a little bit and then you. And so for COVID, which is my example for today, well, I guess you come to peace with the fact that the world is not the same anymore, that it's a scary place, dangerous, that you can get, you know, exposed to the virus. You're trying your best, but it's not the same. And so this is good because now we can do something about it. Not trying to change it, but just, like, accept it and see what comes after. And it brings a sense of freedom, and, like, somehow you understand that you're going to learn something from this. And so it's, like, a very gratifying moment, but it has come with a lot of pain and difficulty, as we were seeing. And so it's just hard. And so that is the chapter, and I have so much to say, but I guess we're on time now. And it's just like, the last thing I just want to add before the activity is this idea that when you don't go through this process, there's, like, an energy that is, like, stuck in your body, and that can cause you even illness, you know. And so I think that is wild, because I don't know, I feel like I have some physical pains that are just grief that I haven't had yet. And I don't know if you have that, but The good thing is that if you are in this track, it means that this is happening. And at some point, you have to accept your own process. If it is not fast, it's okay. You're doing your best. And I know if you're like watching this, that you are doing what you can. And so it's funny, like apply this acceptance to your process of acceptance. Like it's gonna take a time for you to be okay with the things that you did. Just remember that that doesn't mean you're bad, or that it's not part of your identity. You just did something that was maybe not great for you, or others did something that maybe was not great for you, but that doesn't say anything about your value as a human. And so I know you can do this, and I can do this, and we're doing it. And so to close, the activity here is thinking about if you or someone in your life is going through this grief process, and which stage you think you are, or the people here. And then the second one, which I think is great, is review your life and consider the major losses and changes you have gone through, and recall your experiences with the grief process. Write about your feelings as you remember them. And so just to try it out, if you think that you don't have any issues with acceptance, just think about big losses that you have had in your life and see how you processed that. Like, what happened? Did you go into the stages or not? Or and that could give you like a good insight of what has happened and how is it that you deal with loss. And so that was a lot. But I'm really happy that you're here with me, and let's keep working on it. Sending you lots of love, and stay safe, stay warm.